Welcome to the Attract Your Ideal Clients podcast. This show is for entrepreneurs who sell their expertise, including trainers, consultants, and coaches looking for real-world, actionable marketing advice to help them identify their competitive strengths, find and fix the marketing bottlenecks that are holding them back, and confidently make the right marketing decisions for their unique business. Quick note, I've recently updated the show name from Attract Your Ideal Customers to Attract Your Ideal Clients to align more with the specific needs of trainers, consultants, and coaches. Now, before we get started, if you've hit a plateau in your training, consulting, or coaching business, I want to invite you to visit marcusschaller.com/subscribe for weekly troubleshooting guides and tips to help you find and fix the weak spots in your marketing that are holding you back, fine-tune your positioning and marketing strategy, and start growing again by attracting more of your ideal clients. Again, that's marcusschaller.com/subscribe. So today I'm going to talk to you about a question that comes up for a lot of trainers, consultants, and coaches. What types of marketing should I focus on first? What should I create first? Where do I start? And there's basically two main situations that I've seen where this question comes up the most. First is when you have a situation where you're just starting out. So maybe you're coming out of a corporate background, you're launching your training, your consulting, your coaching company from the ground up. And you may have a network that you can start with, but essentially you're trying to build it from scratch. The other situation is where you've been doing it for maybe a year or two, or even more. You're established, right? You've built a client base, you have revenue, you're doing it full time, but you've hit a plateau. Maybe the way you've built your business up until that point was 100% through networking, 100% through referrals, things that you can influence, but that you don't really have all that much direct control over. And what happens a lot of times is trainers, consultants, coaches will build their business to a certain point where they're successful, but they do hit a plateau. And that growth that they've been enjoying kind of stops, maybe even starts going in the wrong direction. Now, one of the big challenges with this is that there's two basic approaches you can take. First is you can kind of have this unfocused outpouring of tactics. You have this idea of what you want to do, you have an idea of what's going to work, and you go all in based on a guess. You haven't really tested anything yet, right? But you're basically going out there, whether you're just starting out from scratch or whether you've been in business for a while, and you're saying, this is what should work. And you're just going straight from this kind of guess, this initial impression of what you should say and what you should do and what you should focus on, and then immediately focusing on tactics. How do I get out there and spread the word about what I'm doing? So you're doing a lot of networking. Maybe you're spending a lot of time on social media. Maybe you're doing cold outreach. Maybe you're just really spending a lot of time on LinkedIn and hoping that people you're already connected with in your network are going to refer your business. Maybe you're even spending money on advertising. But basically, your entire focus at the beginning is really on just taking what you have at that moment and just getting it out there. You're writing taglines, you're writing your website, you're doing all this stuff, right? You're doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of activity, which is great. Activity is fine. But then maybe it's not working as well as you'd hope it would. And what happens is after a few weeks or months of this, now you have to start over a little bit. Now you have a lot to fix. You have to spend all this time and energy kind of forensically going back and figuring out, what did I do wrong? Where did I miss the mark, right? And then fixing whatever mistakes you've been making for weeks and months. Versus the second approach, which is starting with the thinking, starting with the focus, thinking through different iterations of what your business could look like. Again, this could be when you're starting from scratch, or maybe you've hit that plateau and you already have a client base, but you're kind of stuck, right? What was working in the past isn't working as well or at all. The second way to do it is this: you're starting with thinking. You're starting with getting a lot of ideas out on the table and having a lot of options to consider compared to each other, right? Rather than just jumping in and immediately going with the first idea you have. So you have all these ideas, all these options, and then you take action. But you're not picking one of them necessarily and just going, this is the one. This is what I'm going to do, right? You might pick 2 or 3 of your favorite ideas. And then your action is you're really testing your ideas. You're asking yourself, what if I focused on this ideal client type? What if I focused on this particular tactic? What if I focused on these different types of problems I could solve? So you have almost like a matrix of a few options that you can start testing. My guess is that the first approach is the most prevalent, right? This unfocused, like, I kind of know what I want to do, and I'm just going to get out there and start having conversations, and I'm just going to double down on this idea as it is right now. And I'm not really taking a lot of time up front to think through some strategies, think through some different approaches. So why is this a problem? First of all, you're rushing through the process. That's understandable, especially when we're starting out. We want to get this thing off the ground as quickly as possible for a lot of reasons. We have financial reasons to do it, but we're also excited, right? If you're launching a coaching or training or consulting business, you've probably been thinking about it for a long time. Maybe not the specific strategies and thinking through all the different ways of iterations and different approaches, but you've been thinking about wanting to launch your own business, right? So there's this natural energy that's behind it and this inclination to kind of rush through the process, right? The other reason this is very prevalent where people just start jumping into action mode and tactics is it's a little overwhelming, right? There's so many options to consider. There's so many marketing strategies out there and tactics and ways you should do it and best practices. And it's confusing. You're like, well, what do I do, right? I don't know which is the right way to do it. And a lot of the advice you see is contradictory, right? One person on LinkedIn is saying that cold calling is the only way to get through the clients, right? And the other person is saying cold calling is dead and the only way to do it is through social media like LinkedIn. So there's so many opinions out there, so many best practices, quote unquote best practices, that it's just too much. So we don't want to get overwhelmed with too many options. So we just kind of ignore all of it. And we just go with our gut, which is fine. But if we're going with our gut, just ignoring all the options, we're doing it based on a pretty limited slice of the possibilities. Another reason why a lot of trainers, consultants, and coaches jump right into tactics is that it's easy to confuse marketing with tactics, right? It's easy to confuse, well, marketing is about getting the word out there, right? Marketing is about what I'm writing on my website or I'm putting out ads or I'm putting out social media posts, right? So that's marketing. So I need to get right to that. I need to get into the action. I need to get into the how am I spreading the word as quickly as possible. A lot of times when I'll reach out to a potential client, their response will be, especially when they're starting out, is, oh, we don't do marketing. Or we haven't gotten started with marketing yet because we're focused on networking, or we're focused on our relationships, or we're focused on whatever it is they think that's getting them their client work, right? So there's this assumption that, oh, we're not doing marketing because we're not doing advertising, or we're not doing direct outreach emails or cold calls or whatever it is. Or they might think of marketing and selling as being very separate things, or marketing and networking as being very separate things. But essentially, that's not really what marketing is. I mean, marketing is all those things as well, right? It's the tactics and it's the activities. But it's much more than that, right? Marketing is the foundation of your business, right? It's the thinking behind what it is you do, the strategy. What do you say to potential clients in different situations when you're networking, or you're on LinkedIn, or you happen to meet somebody that could be a potential client? It's the messaging you use on your website and your LinkedIn profile. It's the type of content you create. It's the mindset that you're focusing on the clients and not just on yourself. It's the value you create. It's the problems you solve, right? It's not just tactics. It's not just ads or outreach or websites or social media. Now, it might include those things. Again, that's all part of the mix. But those are the activities behind the marketing. The strategy is what drives those activities. So, going back to the original premise of what we started talking about, what types of marketing should I focus on? What should I create first? Where should I start? Well, let's start with what not to do. What not to do as your first steps is to start writing clever slogans and taglines. What not to do is to create a website, especially if you're spending money on having somebody build it for you with generic messaging, right? You don't know yet what you're really going to say, but you have this really pretty website. Where you don't start with is social media, right? And trying to think about how do I become an influencer and how do I start posting every day and creating all this great content. Where you don't start is generic ads, right? Where generic kind of, you can have pay-per-click ads or different types of YouTube video ads that are out there. You're not starting with any of these things yet because you don't know yet what should even be in those ads. You don't even know yet what your social media post should be about. You don't even know yet what should be the focus, the messaging for your website. You don't know yet what type of tagline would even be effective. Where you do want to start is with thinking, right? What kind of thinking? Well, you want to build your hypothesis, right? You want to ask yourself specific types of questions about the area of focus that you're going to concentrate on, the competitive strengths you want to focus on, who your ideal client type will be, what types of problems you're going to focus on solving, why those problems matter to that particular type of client. You also want to have conversations, right? So if you have, let's say you're in a situation where you've been in business for a year or two, you have a client base, but you're stuck at a plateau. You want to reach out to your best clients and you want to have conversations with them. What is it in particular that they find most valuable about what you do? What is it in particular maybe that hasn't been as helpful? Where could you improve on your business? What part of your messaging to them is confusing? What do they like about your website and your social media posts and everything? Find out from your ideal clients that you already have. Now, let's say you're in a situation where you're just starting from scratch. You could still have those conversations. Tap into your network, talk to people that you trust, tell them what you are planning on creating, and ask for their input on things like where they see your strengths are, right? Or the problems that, let's say they're in a particular type of industry or their role is that's potentially somebody who you'd like to be able to help. They represent your ideal client type. Ask them how they see the problems that they're facing. Get a lot of input from people outside of your own little internal bubble so you can start seeing some different perspectives. You don't have to take their advice. You don't have to take their point of view, but it's more data for you to kind of flesh out your own hypothesis about what your business is really going to be about. And then you want to make really what's the tough decisions. It's hard to make these decisions. Focusing on a particular niche or ideal client, that's a tough decision to make sometimes because what happens is it's really easy for our brains to kind of scream back and be like, wait a minute, if we focus on this niche, if we focus on this type of client, if we focus on this problem, well, what about all the other people that don't have that problem, right? If we focus on this industry, what about all the other industries that we're leaving on the table that we're not going after, right? So it's natural to feel a little bit apprehension, right, about making decisions, but you have to make decisions. Because if you don't make decisions, what's happening is you're leaving everything not only to default, right? You're just like, well, we'll see what happens, which to some degree, if you want to test things, yes, you want to see what happens. But you're starting out with, I'm not going to make any decisions. I'm just going to put myself out there and see what happens. And you wind up with a very generic approach to your marketing, to how you describe what you do to people, to your perspective on, whether it's about them or about you. So a great example of this is, I look at hundreds of trainer and consultant and coaches websites every month, right? Because a big part of what I do is kind of checking out what people are doing. And one of the most common mistakes I see is it's all about them, right? They know themselves best, right? That's not something that's a tough decision. They understand their own experience, and they understand their own passion, and they understand their own kind of like why I do this and what, the type of help they want to give, but it's all really from their own perspective. And that's a great starting point. But unfortunately, when that's the entirety of your messaging, if that's the entirety of your homepage, when a potential client lands on it and everything's about you, what they're missing is it's nothing about them. Yes, we're thinking that clients that have the problem that we solve will be able to connect it together. They can, but think about the way that you consume information when you're online, how much information you're digging through. We don't spend nearly as much time trying to decipher other people's messaging or solutions or value propositions as we ourselves put into our own, ideas of how we're expressing our business. So once again, you start out with thinking. You start out with framing and starting to construct a hypothesis of different aspects of what your messaging, what your marketing, what your business is going to focus on, type of people you're going to help, the types of problems that you're going to solve. The next step then is that you're going to create these prototypes, right? Now, prototypes we think in terms of usually as products, right? So if you think of the iPhone was originally a prototype and they built a very crude version of it to test out or maybe have some people in the market test it out. You can do the same thing with ideas. So before you fall in love with any particular strategy or approach or, foundation for your business of your ideal clients and your niche and all that, before you fall in love with any one version of that, you can actually take your top 2 or 3, right? So you should have a hypothesis of, I could focus on this problem A, problem B, or problem C. It's not 20 different problems, right? There's basically 2, 3 core themes that you're probably thinking of. When you think about your ideal clients, you think, I could focus on this particular industry, or I could focus on this particular title. I could focus on people that are at this stage of their career. I have different ways you could approach it, right? So you can take these and use these moving parts to build little prototypes. Example of a prototype would be, let's say you take one version of it, and the prototype is going to be a value proposition. It's going to focus on one ideal client type, the challenges they're facing. It's going to elaborate, what's your approach to that? What's your point of view on that problem and how to solve it? It's going to include specific ways that you solve that problem for them. And that can include different types of services or different methodologies that you use. You can take that and you can put it into 3 or 4 paragraphs, right? That's a prototype. And you can start with that, and you can use that as something to reach out with people in your network and ask them what their perspective on that is. Ask them what resonates with them or what doesn't, right? You could use that as the foundation for a web page, right? A landing page. Your website can have multiple landing pages, right? Not everything has to be on the home page. So you can have 2 or 3 different landing pages with like, hey, here's hypothesis A or prototype A, here's prototype B, here's prototype C. And you can use those prototypes without now doubling down from day one on one version of this. And you can start testing. You can start experimenting with this. You can use something that Franz Johansson calls purposeful bets. He's the author of The Click Moment. Purposeful bets are basically you're taking something that's a small bet and the hypothesis is like a bet, right? And you're putting it out there in the world and you're placing a bet. You're saying like, I'm not going all in, right? I'm just placing this small bet. I'm going to see what happens. And I want to pay attention to what the feedback is or what the reaction to that is, the response, right? There's lots of ways to test and experiment with your prototypes and your ideas. We're not going to get into those details in today's episode, but just think in terms of prototypes, thinking in terms of testing and experimenting takes off a lot of the pressure of feeling like you have to know ahead of time what's going to work and what's not. Another part of your prototype is going to be the tactics, right? How are you going to basically get your message out to the people who are going to value your solution, right? So the first thing is you can ask yourself, well, if I have an idea of 2 or 3 different ideal client types or niches, where do those ideal clients spend their time? Are they on LinkedIn? Do they watch specific things on YouTube? Are they going to specific conferences? Lots of ways to basically think about how can I find those people? Because it doesn't matter how brilliant your messaging is. If you can't actually reach your ideal clients, if they're unreachable, then there's no way to start a conversation or create value for them and engage them and build that relationship. So start thinking in terms of like, well, where does this type of ideal client, where do they spend their time? What do they read? Where can I find them so that I can figure out how to reach them? Another example is like, can I find them through LinkedIn by their title? Like, so LinkedIn has Sales Navigator, where you're able to do a lot of searches by very specific criteria and filters. And you can look up people by industry and length of time in their role and their title and a lot of different things. That's a way to find them, right? How can I find their email addresses or their phone numbers? So think through like, who is my ideal client type? And there's maybe 2 or 3 types that you're thinking of. And can I actually reach them and how? So different ways to reach people. You have basically inbound and outbound, right? So you have content marketing, you have social media, you have advertising, you have speaking at conferences, you have doing webinars. Outbound could be people in your network, right? Reaching out proactively to people you already know, either because they might be potential clients themselves or they're somebody who can ask for referrals. You could spend time networking, building your new network or more people adding to your network. Now, one thing to think about networking is it the right audience, right? So sometimes people get into this kind of, again, they're jumping into tactics, right? They're like, well, I'm going to start networking, right? So they start going to local chamber events and they start going to, little like networking groups maybe that it feels like they're productive because it's like easy, right? I can get in front of people. The challenge is it the right people? If you're selling consulting services that is designed for enterprise companies and you're going to networking events that are made up of 98% solo entrepreneurs or salespeople that are selling some other service, yeah, okay, you're having a lot of conversation and you're technically building your network. And yes, potentially some of those people could be good sources of referrals for you. And you could be good sources of referrals for them, which is the way it should be anyway, right? It's about helping them first. But ultimately, it's like, where are you going to focus your time, right? You only have so much time and energy to work with. So just think of it in terms of like, outbound, yes, networking is part of your outbound activities, but, we want to be very specific of where you're networking, why are you trying to build your network of particular types of people that you feel like you're going to be able to create the most value for. Another type of outbound is cold outreach, right? So you have cold calling, which everybody loves, but it can be very effective, right? You have cold email, sending people that you haven't met yet a cold email to not just introduce yourself, but to try to engage in a conversation, create awareness. You have cold outreach through LinkedIn, right? You can be engaging with people that are your ideal client type, on their posts. You could be sending them connection requests. There's lots of ways to basically say, okay, here's a group of people that I want to start establishing a relationship with, start a conversation with. And the way I can do it is, I can do it through calling or email or LinkedIn or other social media or direct mail or whatever you want to do. But you're taking the initiative and reaching out to a set of very targeted people for a very specific reason. So now once you've picked your first couple 3 prototypes, you're going to test the first one and you kind of see what's happening from that, and then you're testing the second, the third. Now what do you do, right? So let's say hypothetically, you put together this idea for one prototype of your business. It has a specific ideal client type, a specific type of problem that you're going to help solve. It's narrow. You're not just coming out with this generic message about how you're passionate about leadership training, or you're passionate about this, or how much experience you have. You're actually able to articulate, these are the people I serve. Here's the problem you have. Here's how I can help you solve it. And let's say out of 3 ideas, let's say you try 3 ideas. One of them starts to work, right? Maybe you get a client right away. Or maybe it's just that you're starting to get some traction. People are responding to your emails. People are accepting your connection requests based on a very specific message that you're sharing in that connection request, right? So it's not just blindly connecting with people. There's a context to it. So let's say one of those is working. Now what do? Right? Now it's time to refine it. It's time to start iterating on that. The way to do that is you're going to double down on what works. Now is when you're actually increasing the size of your bets. You're going to basically say, hey, this is working. It might not have gotten me to my ultimate goal yet, but I'm starting to see progress. And I'm going to start putting more of my chips, right? Your chips is your time and your energy and your money. I'm going to put more into what I'm starting to see is starting to get some traction. Now, in order to do that, I have to cut what isn't, right? So if there's 2 of the ideas that you've been trying out, and let's say there's really no movement with those. Okay, for right now, to say, okay, I'm going to stop worrying about those other approaches, right? So again, let's say you've had 3 ideas you've been playing around with, and one of them is doing pretty well. The other 2, you're going to just kind of table them for right now. You're going to put them on the back burner. You're not going to spend any more time trying to push those out there or get feedback on it. You're going to now focus more on that first prototype, or the one that's working. And you're going to really now focus on, how do I iterate on this? What is working about it? What is effective about it? Where can I improve upon it, where I can take away maybe aspects of it that aren't as effective, and actually really strengthen then and concentrate on the parts that are working? Okay, so that was a lot that we covered, right? So again, the whole point of this episode was to really help you think about where to start, right? Where to start focusing on, what the first steps should be, whether you're just launching your training, consulting, or coaching business, or whether you've been doing it for a while and you've hit this plateau. Where do you focus your energy? What I want to leave you with is, where do you go from here? What should you do today? What should you do right now to be able to start this process? My recommendation is, take some time today, tomorrow, very near future. Carve out a couple of hours of your time. No calls, no Zoom meetings, no checking email. Maybe even get out of your office, get out of your living room, get out of your kitchen, wherever you're working. Grab a pad of paper or your audio recorder on your phone, or whatever it is that you feel is the best way that you capture ideas. And just spend an hour or 2 just asking yourself some questions. The first question to ask yourself is, what are my competitive strengths? What makes me special? What parts of my experience, my skills, my talents are something that is not easily found everywhere else? What do I love doing? What kind of problems do I love solving? What kind of work do I love doing? What kind of people do I love working with? Do I like doing one-on-one coaching? Do I like doing group coaching? Do I like doing more consultative work? Do I like leading training sessions? Just kind of fleshing out, starting with you. What do you love to do? Not just like, what do you love to do? What drives you to want to build the business you're creating from the ground up, or to grow the business that you've been building for a while that's hit a plateau? So start with you. Start with what really drives you. Second question to ask yourself is, who is my ideal client? Now, you might have, again, 2 or 3 different ideas. You might have 5 different ideas for that. You could have different categories by industry and lengthen of how long they've been in their role or title or whatever it is, right? So just think through, picture your ideal client. This is a little harder when you're just starting out, because you have to kind of imagine who you'd want to work with. If you've been in business for a while, it's a lot easier, right? You think about, of all the clients I've worked with over the last few years or 2 years, who are the ones I loved working with, and why did I love working with them? Then the third question to ask yourself is, what specific types of problems do I really want to help people solve? Now think in terms of problems, not solutions. So rather than saying, I love to help people expand their knowledge, I love to help people increase their productivity, I love to help people reach their potential. Those are all solutions, and that's great. What's the problem that you love solving? So example is, if you really love helping people reach their potential, one way to frame it as a problem is they feel stuck. I love helping people that feel stuck in their career. I love helping people that have a hard time dealing with rejection and putting themselves out there. I love helping people who are trying to learn new skills, but they feel overwhelmed by too much data, too much information. That's just examples, right? But think of it in terms of framing it as a problem. And what kinds of problems do you love tackling? Because problems are going to be the language you're going to use. Problems are what people that you're reaching out to, your potential clients, that's the language that they relate to. They think in terms of, I'm dealing with this challenge, right? Yes, they have aspirations to be able to live their best lives and to be able to reach their potential, but they're not necessarily in the moment thinking in those terms. What they're thinking is I'm really frustrated because I just feel like I'm not doing my best right now. I'm really frustrated because I'm still looking for a job. When I have all the qualifications, I should be totally employed again at this point. I shouldn't still be struggling to get enough, applications out there or resumes out there or interviews, right? That's the way that they're thinking about the situation. So again, 3 questions. Think about your competitive strengths, think about your ideal client type, and think about the specific problems that you love solving.
If you enjoyed the show, I hope you'll consider subscribing and leaving a review. And don't forget to visit marcusschaller.com/subscribe for weekly troubleshooting guides and tips to help you find and fix the weak spots in your marketing that are holding you back, fine-tune your positioning and marketing strategy, and start growing again by attracting more of your ideal clients. Again, that's marcusschaller.com/subscribe.